Carry on.
Okay, John, start.
Well, we could talk about what we've already talked about. We can talk about the family times that we've had.
We just have to get started talking about back in the olden days.
Yeah.
We were kids.
How about some things that you remember when you was a kid? Oh, not there. You don't have any memory.
So I remember Marie talking about yesterday that she never could pull more cotton than you, John. You couldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I couldn't even pull more cotton.
Mary Ann couldn't pull more cotton than me.
I worked as hard as I could.
Well, that's because I was fast with my hand.
You're like Birdie.
No, I wasn't Bert that could pull more cotton than anybody I've ever seen. Did you know that her and Daddy actually harvested a whole crop for red moss one year? Her and Daddy pulled it
I
off.
know. And they pulled over a bale a day,
Yeah,
or about a bale a day.
and when it was all in, he took them to town and bought them both a full suit of clothes, brand new suit.
Really?
And Daddy he bought that brown double-breasted suit. And yeah, and Berta Faith had a really nice suit with a skirt.
Yeah.
Suit jacket with a skirt.
Where's that's when she got married in?
I might be, I don't know. But yeah, they harvested that whole crop with that mom family. But I couldn't pull cotton like no.
I couldn't either. I don't care how hard I worked. I did good to get my 100 pounds a day.
One time me and her on Thursday, we'd go pulling, you know. And it got up about noon on Saturday and we was gonna quit. Of course, she'd been cooking alongside me and keeping me up. And so we decided when we got up to the empty, we was gonna go home. And she took off, and then she turned around and got me out of it.
Yeah, she was good at that.
No, I watched.
I don't know if y'all remember. I guess it was the last time that we went pulling cotton was just out in Lakeland, Mississippi.
Lamisa?
Or Logny, I don't remember which. We'd been 2 or 3 different places in that fall.
We stopped at Lamisa and then we went to Lockman.
Okay, and we lived in that old house, like a barn.
Yeah.
And besides that, Daddy had us out in the couch one time when it was freezing. Birdie told us, "Don't go get in the car. There's not anything."
But I sure hope that.
Daddy come up there and he said, "What y'all doing sitting in the car?" I said, "Well, Birdie told us to."
Every summer.
So it wasn't long till they quit and went home.
We begged him that day to start a fire for us to warm up with.
Yeah,
Well, there wasn't anything around the burn but those old tumbleweeds.
yeah.
Well, he said, y'all gather up some tumbleweeds. Well, we had a big old pile of tumbleweeds as big as a car. He set that thing fire and it lasted about 2 minutes. But yeah, that was when I had just started the 4th grade. We started the school of dancing. I started 4th grade. Well, then we moved to Lamisa and we stayed there about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I started the school there and I was just getting caught up when we moved to Lockney and went to school there and just getting caught up there. We moved to Granbury and picked up the cons.
That's why I told Dad I'm through.
Yeah.
I cannot keep up
Yeah.
with school like this. I just started my freshman year. And I told him, I said, I can't keep up like this, so that's when I quit.
Well, you went to school at,
I did go back to school at Cobb after we moved down there.
but, yeah, I couldn't tell him I wasn't going to school with him. Yeah.
Well, I was in the 7th class and I went to
I'm gonna get a chair and move over there and let you lie down.
You went to Hampton, Lamisa, the Lockney. And, you started the school at Hampton when we got back from Nighthawks.
I started and finished there. I'm the only kid got to do it.
March especially.
He was saying, he was on kid one. They got to start to school and finish at the same place.
At the same school without change.
Well, when we got to Seymour, I had the same teacher that I had in first grade at Red Springs. And she was bragging about how smart I was. Well, we'd moved all over the country. I was so far behind, I didn't know what they were doing. So I really,
You wasn't smart anymore.
I sure was not. She was pretty disappointed in me.
You know, when I moved to Lampasas, I met this this woman. Her name is Frances Osborne. And we got talking. Well, her sister was my first grade teacher. I mean, grade school.
Red Springs. Osborne?
Osborne.
No, my Osborne taught first grade in Newfoundland.
Really? What was her name?
Melbourne. Alma, Osborne, they had that store and
Yeah, I remember that.
he had the Osborne Dragon.
I don't know if she was trained to them or not, but she was a sister to the
One in Red Springs.
that taught me in first grade.
Well, I can't remember that teacher's name. I think it was Sandra, but I'm not sure. The first grade teacher in Red Springs did something. I started in Melbourne and then I moved to Red Springs and that's when
That's why.
he was born. He was born in.
Yeah. He took your place.
Well, how were you born in Seymour?
That's where they lived. They lived at Red Springs when I was.
Yeah, we lived out.
George was born there.
Oh, he was, yeah. They read
Him and Marie Roach was born in Seymour. We lived out there about, I don't know, about 5 miles out of Red.
Francis place.
So, I mean, they lived with Georgia was born. And they lived there when I was born. But they've been 100,000 miles.
Yeah,
We've been back there 2 or 3 times.
they lived at Hardy, Oklahoma, when George and Fannie started school. Jordan told me a story about when Fannie started school, they bought her a red coat. And she was so proud of that red coat when she started school. And they had to walk across the pasture and across the creek. And Daddy told them if they come up the storm while they was at school, they was to go, I think it was off of Floydtown, but I'm not sure.
That was an uncle, I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, it was one of them. And one time it did, it come, Chuck Florida while they were at school, they had to go over there and work for Daddy to come get them. That, George told me several stories about when they were at home.
Did he tell you word about them having to, when they crossed that creek, they had to walk across
A log?
a log?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he told me that Wallace got snake bit, reaching into a hen nest to get eggs, and a chicken snake bit him, and he thought he was gonna die. He was just a little guy. And next to,
Yeah.
so are we going? So David, you tell a story about Grandpa and the cotton bale.
Grandpa told me that he and some other men had sitting around town with BSing and whatnot when they decided they were supposed to a cotton gin, so they decided that they was going to have a contest to see who could take a hater in each hand, reach back and grab a bale of cotton, pick it up on their backs and walk it across the street. And Grandpa did it. I don't know how many of the other guys did it. And Grandpa did it faster than I, but there's timing, you know.
Yeah. And that was 550-pound bale of cotton.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, he was a pretty strong man when he was younger.
Well, I'll tell you what, I remember too, me working at Cotton Gin was
Suction hand?
maybe 17 around during the Christmas break. And I was working running the press. There was 550-pound bales of cotton. I had to get under it with a dolly and get it on that dolly and move it over to the other side of this dock. It would be loaded. And like I said, I probably maybe 125 or 30 pounds soaking wet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why you're back.
Yeah, maybe so. Part of it. Made the rainwater, you know, around that radio. And I had gone to work for him running the combine the summer before. He kind of thought a lot of me, so he hired me, you know, during the 2 week break. Christmas.
I worked at, Corin again, Moss was named it on that gym. Red Brothers. Ray? Ray?
Yeah, Queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he did have a brother named Ray, but Quentin was the one that did.
We lived in Clinton's house there one time, didn't we?
No, that was, no, that was
That's fat.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I worked there the first time running the suction. The next time I kept the books. So I guess that was pretty complicated.
You moved up.
Yeah, way in the trailers in, keeping books.
Daddy ran stuff in the gym for a lot of years, and
Yep.
as small as he was too. And I never did that, but I'm sure that old suction was hard. You ran suction, did
Suction, that's been over at Robbie.
you?
I run trucks.
Did you?
But mine was easier. I did it this way.
Well, that's what I.
You had toggles?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
I sat up here in.
I had toggles too, they looked like this.
No, I sat up here in this cage with it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
So Murray's the only one of us that never run a suction. Murray.
I was busy reading.
What you missed out on.
Yeah, but she's probably smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Reading off.
I know she's smarter than us, she never ran a suction.
Well, we were talking yesterday about when we lived on Foster's place that he's probably right there, but Joe was just, was on it. Me and James had a good time. That's where I fell and cut my hand on the glass.
Oh.
I saw she had to go outside.
So James was out in the back. He's supposed to have been cutting firewood. Well, he was using the axe to cut ice with, and Daddy was yelling at him, "Put that axe up and get back in here." When James couldn't hear him, I said, "I'll go kill him." Mom said, "No way, I'll kill him." But I'd already ran out the front door, around the house, and there was a smokehouse there. And just as I got to that smokehouse, my feet went out from under me. And there was a glass jar sitting there, and I felt on that jar, and it cut my finger, cut the finger, put that finger in. Mama was afraid I was gonna bleed to death that night, and they couldn't get out to take me to the doctor or anything. She sat up with me all night, and she was ready to start bleeding. But it healed up. I know I was always getting in trouble.
Well, I remember George coming home from the circus while we lived in it.
You
So, probably three of them. Maybe just turned 4 of them.
And I was telling Johnny that I remember Mama telling us that the day that George came home, she had got a letter from him a couple of weeks before, and he told her that he'd be coming home, but he didn't know just when he would get there. And that morning she got up and she told Fannie and Wallace, said, "Y'all go down to the bus station, do right, because George will be coming in today." And so they went down there and they sat through 2 or 3 buses. I don't know. They decided he wasn't going to come. And then the last bus that came in, he got off of it.
Mother's intuition.
Yeah.
She had it.
She had it. Yep. She could always tell when they didn't wash it when she coming.
Really?
Yeah. She was always about 2 or 3 days before he showed up. So, well, David will be coming here in a few days. It wouldn't be 2 or 3 days he'd show up.
He was quite a guy, wasn't he? He just showed up.
Yeah.
We always look forward to it.
Yeah.
We always look forward to David coming because he usually always brought us a sack of candy.
Sandy, and he gave us that big old stack of records. He used to change those records out of those young houses, and he'd bring those over 78. We'd play those things, and we'd act like we were DJs, especially when Ronnie J came over. He loved to act like a DJ. I still remember some of those little songs.
Yeah, Ronnie J was another character, wasn't
He
he?
really was. We had a lot of fun.
I wasn't around him much.
He was quite the guy.
Got you in a lot of trouble.
He did. He did get me in a lot of trouble. He got me the worst whooping I ever had. I mean, I say he got it. I didn't have to do what he said, but he kept talking and kept talking until we went up to the wheat field and got one of the calves that had been weaned. And I had broke that calf to ride in the lot while it was being weaned, and I tie baling twine and make a harness out of it. And I rode that calf all over the lot. Well, after it was weaned, Daddy turned it out in the wheat field, and there was another one in the lot that I had already broke the ride. Ronnie J comes over and he said, "We need to go get that other calf so we both have one of these." And I said, "No, Daddy told me to leave that calf alone." And he said, "Well, your daddy ain't here, he's working, he don't know anything about it." I kept telling him, "No, Daddy said don't do it." He kept on until I gave in. And so we went up to the wheat field and got the calf, and we were just about halfway back through that pasture. It was out there at both of us. We were just about halfway back through that pasture when Daddy met me. And he had his belt in his hand. And he whipped me all the way back to the house.
I remember James and Georgia getting one out of the kids.
Yeah, I guess it was in the genes or something. 'Cause
Well, that's where Georgie and James tied that calf to the wagon and ran under the fence with him, and that's where James got that big scar on his lip. Running up that calf or a goat. I couldn't remember which it was. But one or the other, they tied it to the wagon. It ran under that fence and cut James's lip. He always had that big scar right there.
Uncle Booth did that with me, but he tied the red wagon to a calf and led the calf, put me in it, and led it around, let me ride in that wagon. That's when we lived at the cook place over there by George. And so I guess it was a week later or something. Uncle Booth wasn't there, but I wanted to ride in the wagon, so I hooked the calf to the wagon. And when I swatted that calf on the rump, he took off running and turned the wagon over. I fell out of the wagon and he wrapped it around the corner post. Tore him around my wagon. Grandpa used to put me in that wagon and pull me up to the watermelon patch. Daddy planted watermelons up behind that house up there. And Grandpa said, "You want to go get a watermelon?" Yeah.
I don't remember the watermelons, but I remember the peanut. We had to go out there and shake them peanuts.
I remember y'all shaking them. I was too young.
We'd have to go out there and shake them and stand them up.
Shocked me.
Yeah. And then every once in a while we'd have to go out there and turn them.
Yeah.
When there was so glad from the threshold peanuts.
I remember the big garden that we always had.
Yeah.
I think that's why I garden.
Well, according to things I remember, Mom always had lots of tomatoes.
Mama always had a garden. It didn't make any difference where we lived. She always had a garden. Of some
They're
kind.
talking about someplace being out picking tomatoes and squatted down over a copperhead. And when she realized it was there, it never bit her, but she eased up off of it and got away from it. But she was picking tomatoes then. I think that was
Well, she did that there at the cook place one time. She was out there digging in the flower bed. And I don't know if it was 10 years ago. It said, "Mom, come here." And she said, "What do you want?" She said, "Get up. Just get up easy and come here." And there was a copperhead there too. Of course, she didn't know it. the Fannie called her and
Yes.
she walked away. Fannie said there was a copperhead. It was pretty scary.
Yes.
Daddy always had sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
If it's sandy land, he'd have sweet potatoes.
We planted sweet potatoes there at Uncle Belden's place one time across the creek. We had to haul water up there and water.
Yeah. And he planted some watermelons up there, and I remember him making us go up there, and he was gonna plow those watermelons the last time. And he made us go up there and lay those vines in a row so he could plow them without tearing the vines out. See, we just locked everything out of you.
Two, three.
You were small.
Well, I was up there doing that.
I wasn't very big myself, but I remember us planting those sweet potatoes up there and then having to haul water in the wagon, I guess. I don't know, or I don't know how you got it up there, but anyhow, we had to carry water in buckets and water the sweet potato plants.
Mhm. Do y'all remember the old log cabin across the creek over there?
I got pictures of it still.
I think either Daddy and Uncle Melvin or Grandpa and Uncle Melvin built that.
I think it was Daddy and Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa and Granny lived in it
Yeah.
first, and then Junior and Fannie lived in it.
Yeah, I think Grandpa and Daddy, I think.
When Fannie and Junior lived there, Junior and James and me was walking over there one night, just about dark, and we had to cross that creek to go there. And just about the time we crossed that creek, there was something screamed, sounded like a panther or something. And I was real. I said, "What was that?" And they said, "Oh, probably Black Panther." And while I was looking around, I was getting real close to them from there on over to the cabin.
Yeah.
Daddy and somebody dug that well out there on that place with a man powered drill auger. And I remember them doing it. They were giving. No, that was here in Melvinsville.
Yeah.
Don't have enough.
Yeah.
Y'all are weird. Y'all are all the same.
Yep. And I'm the only boy. Yep. I guess Birdie didn't have.
No,
Mildred didn't have.
me and Maureen Fannie. And you.
And I've never seen anyone else had that.
You're probably a girl.
Man, I wish I'd have known that back when.
I went to a chiropractor there in Corpus Christi, and when we lived down there, and he noticed my finger, and he asked me what happened to it, and I said I was born that way. I was telling him about all the kids, and he said I have never seen anything like that before. He said I'd like to study that.
Well, it's amazing how it works, that it still works.
Yeah.
Like that.
When I worked for farmers market, it was party. I had he wasn't in our office, but he came had an office or something. He had,
Oh, he did. Well, I've never seen anyone else, and I pay attention just because.
I always looked at the kids when they were
Yeah,
born. That's the
yeah.
first thing I looked at,
Yeah.
and the grandkids.
Absolutely.
And so far,
None of them.
none of them.
I haven't seen
Right. Oh, you too?
And David and Fannie.
Oh.
It's all on the same
All like
finger,
that.
same hand.
Yep.
We were special. That's the deal. We were special.
I bet y'all rode the short bus too, didn't
Oh, y'all.
Stackford talent show with James and his friend.
Yeah.
And I got stage fright.
Yeah, you got awfully nervous. You were singing, don't be angry or. Don't be angry. Don't be angry.
And you forgot the words?
No, I got scared.
Oh.
Scared.
But then I came back, my son, and the boy.
Yeah, oh, you did? And you said, I'm not doing that anymore.
Are we rolling? Oh, okay. Well,
Let George tell
y'all
some.
tell some stories.
Yeah, tell us something, George, that we don't
We didn't
recall.
know,
because
we
we weren't there.
Okay, I got the first request. Okay. You told me one time about Daddy building a fire under a mule. Yeah, I was, I think I was 7 years old. Anyway, uh, where we lived down there, kind of in the back country, and there was a nice big old house there. Uh, anyway, Daddy had bought a team of horses. He's gonna do some farming that year, and he borrowed money through FHA and bought that team of horses. He bought a bay horse and a big old gray horse. Their dadgum old feet was that big around, you know. Anyway, that winter, the old gray horse took distemper and died. Well, I left Daddy with one horse, and Uncle Melvin happened to have an old crippled mule. Well, Daddy used them as a pair, you know, and we'd been off somewhere wagging. I don't remember what we're doing, but anyway, had to cross a little old creek, and it wasn't too deep, but got down in that creek, and that daggone old bay horse balked. He wasn't going up that fast. Well, Daddy went out there and cut him a dogwood switch, and he whipped that horse, I'm telling you. And of course, I didn't like the idea of me beating that good old horse, you know. So I ran up the house and told Granny Branch. I said, Granny, I said, Daddy down there just beating that old horse to death, you know. And he wouldn't move. So he decided, well, I will make you move. So he just built a fire under that son of a gun, and he did move. He went out. He went out that. Oh, it was so much fun, you know. But that's where we lived when Fannie started to school, and we had to walk 3 miles across the pasture to get to the school. It was about, I don't know, about a mile and a half over, and you hit a road. Then we traveled the road, but we walked that every day. Gosh, I don't know, all year, and I don't really remember where Daddy moved from when moved back over toward Hardy there somewhere. Anyway, yeah, we lived just up on the hill from the cemetery, and we had some friends lived around there pretty close, you know, and one spring after persimmons got ripe, we had 2 or 3 persimmon trees out kind of in the backyard, and I climbed that persimmon tree, shaking them persimmons at it so that ones on the ground could pick them up, you know. Anyway, I was up there in that tree, and one of the old boys had that gun BB gun, he decided he'd shoot me while I was on that tree. Well, he hit my tooth.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
And shattered all the backside plumb off that tooth.
Wow.
But it's lucky, I guess, he hit my tooth. If he'd hit me in the eye, it'd put it out.
so Fannie would have been like 6 years old and you was 8.
Yeah.
Y'all was walking across that pasture every
Yeah.
day and back
Yeah.
and forth to go to school.
3 miles and it's uphill both ways.
Yeah.
I'd already been to school 1 year there, and she started that year.
Hmm.
And like I say, we had to travel across a creek, and Daddy went down there and cut a log and put it across that creek so we could walk it, from bank to bank.
Yeah.
But that damn thing wasn't that wide, but we just like coons, I guess. It wasn't no problem for us to walk that long.
Wasn't that amazing that little kids like that?
Yeah.
You send them off every morning. Did you take lunch in a paper bag or a
Yeah,
tin large
Well,
bucket?
yeah. They got to where one of the teachers of course, the government furnished food for the schools, different types, and she'd put on a pot of something of a morning, and we got to eating that away. It's cool, but we did for a long time carry our lunch, biscuit and egg or something like that,
Yeah.
You told me something about Fanny they bought her a new red coat. Yeah, start school in. Yeah, she had. Boy, it was pretty nice little red coat, and she was so proud of that coat. I bet. Anyway, and whose house did y'all go to when it rained and you couldn't walk home? Well, Uncle Henry Branch was Grandpa Branch's brother. Okay. And they lived just a quarter mile from school. And Mother always told us, said, now, if clouds or something comes up or if it's raining, you go up there and stay there and till we come and get you. So that's what we do.
Well, do all of y'all remember everywhere we ever lived with a cellar? How bad Mom was if a cloud come up, we was going to the cellar.
I'm telling you,
We was gonna stay there.
yeah, daylight.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that house we lived at on the hill, the big 2-story house. I think that's where James was born.
Well, that's where I was born, too.
That's where you were born too.
Yeah, me and James both was born.
Okay. Anyway,
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
anyway, we lived there, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And Daddy worked for a farmer there. And they raised what they call a truck patch. They had corn, cucumbers, okra, tomatoes, and you gather that stuff every other day. And tomatoes, they would pack them in baskets. They had bushel baskets and they had half a bushel basket. And well, Wallace was big enough at that time, and me and him picked those tomatoes, and carry them into. They had a what they call a place set up under a tree. It had benches and everything, where they could pack them tomatoes. They'd cut them out, in sizes, and they packed what they call a number 1 tomato was nice big one, Number 2 was a little smaller, but that's the way they sold them, number 1s or number 2s. And take them to Dallas down there at the Market Square, and just drive through there, and man, you'd be so surprised at how many wagons they had set up there. Each person, that was his store.
Yeah.
They sold everything in the world that was raised on the farm, and
Sort of like a farmer's market.
yeah, a farmer's market is what it was.
And that was in Dallas?
Yeah,
Wow.
right down in the middle of Dallas.
Wow.
So you took them from Hardy to Dallas?
Yeah. And they'd make a trip. They could make 2 trips a week.
Wow.
But anyway,
By wagon?
huh?
By wagon?
No. The farmer had a pickup.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think 36 or 37, 1937 model pickup, And,
It's about like riding in a wagon, probably.
yeah, most likely, yeah. But anyway,
And then the roads were rough.
Yeah.
John, what is your earliest memory? What is your earliest memory that you have as a kid?
my earliest time I remember,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we lived in a half dugout in Seymour, Texas. And in other words, it had a roof on it, but you go down under the ground, And heck, it wasn't much bigger than the cellar, but we lived in that thing. Gosh, I don't know really how long it was, but my best memories was the people that owned the place there was McDonald, and Daddy milked for the dairy. He milked cows, and
And it was all done by hand too. It wasn't done by machine.
no, it's all done by hand. Well, anyway, they had 2 horses that run out there in the pasture, and one of them was an old paint horse, and they couldn't hardly catch that daggone old horse. So they tied a log chain, trace chain, on one of his front feet, where he could still get around, but he wouldn't just run plumb off from them. But they got after him out there one day to catch him. He took off down through the pasture there, and that chain wrapped around his other foot and broke that leg. They had to shoot him.
Oh, man.
Anyway, from there, we went to Joe Tuck's dairy, which was out there around, kind of out in the country. And that mother cooked there in the fireplace. Didn't have no stove or anything, and all the cooking was done on the fireplace.
Wow.
So wasn't that, don't I understand right that when Birdie was born, they lived in an old
We lived in a tent.
tent? Okay.
That we moved there at Hardy, and just 200-300 yards from the school, Daddy set a tent up out there, and Birdie Pay was born in that tent, I bet. But that's where I started school, and of course, I'd run back home and back out the tent, for dinner every day. But
What was it that was wrong with Murray Fannie? They thought she was going to die. Whooping cough.
well, I don't really remember.
She did have poop.
Now, Fannie had whooping cough, and it just about killed her. Boy, she couldn't get her breath after time. But I don't remember about Birdie Pay. All my memories was that she was born there in that tent. But
I'd always heard the story that I thought they lived in a chicken house.
Oh, they did that when I was.
well,
You were born.
we lived in a chicken house when we was pulling cotton for Parker's.
Yeah, that's when I was a baby.
Yeah,
That's where Granny Branch.
they had, at one time, they had, laying hens, you know, and it was always pretty good sized building. Had cement floor in it and everything, and it was walled in. And, they went in there and cleaned that thing up, fumigated it and all. That's where we lived when we was out there pulling cotton. Uh,
Well, you're talking about the babies, you know, some of them having trouble, maybe not even living that for them to raise 10 kids and
Yeah.
in those times
well,
and all of them live is amazing.
And all of them.
now James,
Yes.
no, none of us are normal. James, for some reason, mother's milk didn't agree with him. So, they finally took him to the doctor, have him checked over and everything to find out what's wrong with him. And, the doctor told Daddy, said, this baby is going to have goat milk. So Daddy finally found an old goat, and Mama milked that thing twice a day. I mean, she'd milk in a half a gallon syrup bucket, run that thing over her. That she milked 2 times a day. But he was goat milk.
I told him that's what was wrong with him.
Yeah.
He
all know that
He had goats when he died too.
he did. He still loved him goat, didn't he?
Yeah.
Trisha Kay had jaundice and they couldn't get her over it.
Yeah.
And the doctor told them to get a goat and they started giving her goat milk and it pulled her through that.
That'll be done.
Yeah, I remember that right there at the Pope place. And
Oh, yeah?
They lived in the old house up the road from the Pope house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about that.
No, that it didn't.
Yeah. Of course, you know, we lived in the house there, where Lloyd and Woolman built. You know, of course, it was just across the driveway from where Sarah and them's house is now. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
where we built our home.
Yeah.
And anyway,
I remember that.
Lloyd Warren, I remember that house. Well, you know, he lost his right leg, had it took off right at the heel, you know. And they said that he had 58 machine gun bullets in that leg. Goodness. It just shattered. But anyway, when he had his house built, he built it right on the ground, you know, where he wouldn't have. And he walked on crutches. But that gun, he could travel as fast on them crutches as he could walk, you know. And I remember him after he died. That's how come us back here in Oklahoma. See, we was working on that ranch down there, Granbury. Yeah. Well, Lloyd got there was nobody here that could drive him, and he had to go to Oklahoma City sometimes every couple of weeks, you know. Well, after we got back here, well, that was my job, was to drive him from Oklahoma City up there to VA.
Oh.
And but anyway, well, but I wanted to hear some of the story you had told me, and I knew I wouldn't remember them right. Like I was thinking that mule, that he built a fire under a mule was under a horse. Yeah, the old bay horse ball. You know, well, of course the mule couldn't pull that damn wagon with him. Well, that's when I guess that's when Daddy had
lost everything. Was it?
Oh, yeah,
He lost everything. The bank come and repossessed
Yeah.
everything. He lost it all.
yeah,
And he wouldn't ever go into debt again after that.
no. And, you know, I don't remember how much he borrowed.
$250, wasn't it? It's on
I don't really remember
it's
that.
written on a piece of paper was in that old trunk.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, but I remember after he got out there and started farming, you know, that's when we lived so long.
Yeah.
And, he, he got a hold of enough money and he paid that note off.
Um, yeah, they said
Remember they took everything?
they took everything.
Yeah,
He still paid it. He still
And
had to
he
pay.
paid it off, yeah.
yeah,
But he would never go into debt again after that. I remember him he bought a pickup. You remember the Chevy pickup, blue and white pickup? He bought up at the Chevy dealer in Anson.
Yep.
And they talked him into getting it financed at the bank. I think you was working at the bank at the time. And he come home and he was looking at that and saw how much interest they were charging. And he went and got the money and went back up there and paid that pickup off. And that's the only time I remember going into debt.
yeah, he, uh,
You know, Mom told me that when they lived there, that
Francis Place Farm.
what?
Francis.
Francis
Francis Place, yeah.
he wanted to sell him the farm
Yeah.
and let Dad pay it out, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't go into debt for it.
Yeah,
Mom
Yeah.
said he made a good crop there, and he
Yeah.
could have paid it off. And
Best crop
Well-
best crop he had ever made.
yeah, that was a mistake he made, a bad mistake, you know, as far as I'm concerned. But you know how he was.
Yeah.
Where would we all be if he'd have?
Huh?
George,
Yeah,
George, were we living on the Francis Place when you went into the service?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You was, I don't know, you was,
I was about 4 years old, I think.
four, I don't think
Three
it was that old.
That's where I was.
Marie was just crawling.
I was born in Seymour, but we lived in Francis too much.
But
Well, I remember, I don't know that if I remember it, if I remember Mama telling me that when you were leaving, they called you brother. Fannie and them
Yeah.
called you brother.
yeah,
Well, I couldn't say brother, I said butter. I called you butter. And you were leaving to go to the army, and I asked Mama, I says, "Where's Butter going?" She said, "Well, he's going to the army." "No, I don't want Butter to go."
yeah, but, oh,
Well, I remember when you came home.
that's 1945. November 5th, 1945, when I was inducted. And,
And I was born in October of '46, and you didn't know I was born, or didn't see me until you got out of the army.
yeah, that's 1949.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember you.
Huh?
I didn't remember you.
You did?
I
You, no, you just a little older. But in fact, I think you just started crawling.
Well, I remember when you came home because Mama was told me the story about you had wrote Mama and told her that you were coming, but you didn't know just when you'd be there.
Yeah.
And so one morning she got up and she told Fannie and Wallace, said, "Y'all go to Durant because George is going to be coming in today." And so they went down there, and I think they sat through 2 or 3 buses waiting, and you know, and they'd about give up on you. And finally, a bus came in, and you got off of it.
Yeah, I was
But
surprised.
you
Yeah,
coming home.
I was surprised to see him there. Of course, Wallace, you know, he's just a little rascal when I left. Got back, and heck, he's a grown man.
That's like David when I went to Vietnam. He was just a big old boy when I left here, and I got back. He looked like a grown man.
Yeah.
First thing he said to me was, "How you doing?"
I remember that day when you came back. I was plowing.
Yep.
I was on the tractor plowing, and I saw you pull up over there? I guess we was expecting you.
Well, I don't know. You didn't know when I was gonna get
Oh, I
one. You
didn't-
knew I was coming.
I was working for Farmers Home Administration in Anson,
Oh, yeah.
and he walked in the door and I started bawling.
Well, I was on the far side of the field when I saw him pull up on the road, and I picked the plow up and headed across there. Then just happy as I could be to see him, and I about cried too, I think, if I
And he
did.
happened to be there at mom and daddy's when he came.
I don't remember
Uh-uh.
that.
And yeah, you were there. And
My husband either.
when I took him out there, well, Mama really broke down.
Mama started crying. I thought she
I
was.
wasn't there. I lived in Corpus.
You was there. No, I wasn't.
I don't remember Mary Ann being there. I just remember Mama crying so hard. I thought she was gonna have a heart attack.
I
Well, she
never-
just like.
I don't remember it.
Because she didn't know I was in the country because I didn't have time to call. I came into Seattle and then went down to Portland, Oregon, and I just got off of one plane onto another, and then to Houston, and then to Abilene, and I didn't have opportunity to call. And then when I got to Abilene, I jumped on that bus and came to Anson, and I thought, well, I'm already here, don't need to call now. So I walked down to where she worked. I knew she was down there in the courthouse, and I walked down there, and she took me out to the house. So I just walked in on Mama. She didn't know I was even in the States. But
Okay, I have a question. What memories do y'all have of Grandma and Grandpa Cox and the grandparent branches? What memories do y'all have of them
the branches,
and the Cox? I know Grandpa Cox lived with y'all.
oh,
You know, what kind of memories do y'all have of them?
Well,
lots of memories. about
yeah, well, when like I say, when we lived there at Hardy, where Fannie and I was going to, first years, well, Grandpa and Grandma lived way back off in uh, I guess you'd call it boonies, but they was about, 10 or 15 acres farming land over there. And, Uncle Booth farmed it, he always had the corn or something. He had a team, always had a team of something, and, uh, Grandpa he was a trapper. And,
You're talking about Grandpa Cox.
yeah, and that's the way he made his living. And in the wintertime, he'd run a trap line, and he'd catch his furs and dry 'em and take them to market then later on. But he he got a got a hold of a little old young badger, and anyway, he raised that thing. Of course, it got grown, and it just run around there just like a cat, that or a dog. Anyway, they had a dirt cellar there, and that badger go down in that cellar and he'd dig him a hole back under the bank. That's where he stayed most of the time.
Wow.
But he'd get hungry, he'd come out and mess around, out there, and he got to robbing the hen nest. He liked them eggs. Well, they decided that they'd try to break him from getting them eggs, and they put an egg out in the yard there, and they hooked it up to a coil on Model T car. Boy, that badger come out there and he seen that egg, he cracked it. Man, that daggone shot hit him and he tumbled and squalled, and away he went. He went back in that hole. But I don't know. I was about 8 years old, I guess, along about then. And Uncle Boost always had an old hound running around, squirrel dog. Well, if it, days when it was cloudy, drizzly, and that sort of thing, well, he'd always say, George, you want to go hunting with me? Oh yeah, I'm really ready to go. We'd go walk all day long and come in. Of course, he carried me along, so I carried him squirrels. And by the time we got home, we'd have 15 or 20 every daggum time we went out. That old hound, tree one over yonder. Next thing you know, he's a mile back the other way. But we followed that thing. But that's what we lived on was wild meat. We didn't have nothing. And
But I don't remember, did Daddy ever kill a deer or anything like that? I didn't remember hearing him ever kill a deer. It was always rabbit or squirrel.
yeah, squirrels and well, of course, after he got situated where he was going to be some time there, he might feed out 2 or 3 hogs,
Yeah.
bush of them in the winter time. But
Well, I agree with Dina. I didn't know anything about my grandparents except Grandpa Cox.
yeah,
Yes, Granny
Granny-
Branch was still alive when I was born. No, so
He
Granny
died when I
Cox
was a
was.
baby.
Granny Cox died the year you were born.
Yeah.
And the
Granny
other,
Branch and Grandpa Branch were both gone before I was born.
Well,
Okay.
Grandpa, I think, died right after George was born. My friend.
I think it told me I was 3 months old when he died.
okay.
I didn't know it.
So none of us knew him.
But Granny Branch lived with Mama and them.
Yeah, she died. She died in 41.
Yeah, I was a baby when she died. Mama said she had me in a apple crate. And she put corn cobs under that apple crate, and she would be sitting there quilting, and then I'd start crying. Well, she'd rock me with her foot, and I'd quit crying. And then after Granny died, well, she said I cried all the time for ever so long because nobody had time to rock me.
And don't ever like you.
Yeah, they.
And that's when they lived in that chicken house there on Mr. Parker's. Mr. Parker's.
Oh.
I don't know how many times they'd been back there, but that was the time when Granny Branch died.
Well, I remember Mom telling that she loved Granny Branch.
Yeah.
Granny Branch was a really fine.
She was little. She was a little. Oh, I don't guess she weighed. Probably didn't weigh 80 pounds, but she was black Dutch.
Huh.
And well, she had real dark skin, but so she was. In fact,
Where did Black Dutch come from? What country?
man, I have
Holland?
no idea.
Huh?
Holland?
Well, I don't know.
Black Dutch. But anyway, I think they either came from Kentucky or Tennessee. I'm not sure.
Migrated from the old country over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Daddy told me that Grandpa Branch died because of the appendicitis surgery. A doctor in Denton, Texas, operated on him, and he got gangrene from it. And the doctor operated on his son that day, and his own dad died from gangrene too.
Really. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess he didn't wash his knife.
Yeah. I guess so.
That's what, and he told me that incision just, it was horrible.
It would heal up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally,
Terrible way to die.
kind of like being gut shot, I guess.
Yeah. So Granny Cox died when?
When
I
He
was
was born, he was born in Red Springs.
So
Yes, she lived with us. She always wore these long sleeve, long dresses and an apron.
Both grandmas did.
Did they?
They wouldn't dress until they tied that apron on.
Well, Grandpa and Granny lived up by the gin in Red Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess Grandpa was working or something. Well, Granny would come down to the house and stay with us in the daytime.
Yeah.
And I drank. She got to where she wouldn't eat, and so Mama would give her that Ovaltine.
Ovaltine, yeah.
Ovaltine, mix it with milk, and if we got to drink some of that, we thought that was really
Yeah,
good.
it was a real treat.
Yeah, that was a treat.
That's the only thing I remember about Granny Cox was the snuff.
Oh yes,
down the
yeah,
corner of
enough.
the mouth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they all did all that beer snuff, you know, man. I know, Granny Branch, one time, I'll tell you about living up on the hill where that old boy shot me in the mouth with that BB gun.
Yeah.
He hit me on the tooth. But anyway, we, we lived there and, Granny told me, said, George, said, will you go down yonder? There was a big old elm tree down there. Go down there and dig down and get me some of those elm roots. And anyway, I did. I got them for her. Well, I brought her back up there, you know, and she said, now, said, will you chew the end of it up, you know, and get it soft? And she used them things in her snuff and washed her teeth in them. That's what she wanted to brush.
To get them out.
Toothbrush.
Yeah. Yeah, hands her toothbrush.
I'm Hannah.
But she wanted them roots off the elm tree.
Uh,
Well, Mom, I know you've talked about Grandpa Cox and his first TV, and y'all watch his TV.
Oh yeah, that's when we lived there on Walter Malone's place. That I guess between Seymour and Red Springs.
Yeah, well, it wasn't very far from Red Springs. It was right on the bank of the Brazos River.
Yeah. Anyway, Grandpa got the first television, and so we would walk. I don't know. It's about probably half a mile across there to where he lived in a little house on the ranch. I don't know who was he working on that
He
ranch.
worked on the ranch, yeah.
Anyway, we'd walk across there. Mama would take, it was me and Johnny and Marie, and I guess David was probably, or was that before David was born?
I think that was before he was born.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd walk across the pasture, and Mama would go over there. Mama would watch As the World Turns on that TV, and once it was over, we she was ready to go home. We'd walk back home.
Yeah, but you know, that was always her thing. She watched As the World Turns and Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, days of our lives.
And Queen for a Day.
Yeah.
That was her deal. When it came time for those to come on TV, she'd quit housework and go watch that.
And then when we went back there from Granbury after all of our moving around, and Daddy worked for Walter Malone, no, Tiny Malone.
Tony Malone.
Well, I guess he lived in the house with us then, because we always had his TV in our house then.
Yeah.
And so we watched Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and Lone Ranger,
Pat Boone.
Pat Boone. Yeah.
Well, I want to tell a story on George. He was talking about he hated to see Daddy whipping that old horse. I remember seeing you one time on an old Palomino out in your front yard there that kept rearing up with you. And you said, well, I'll break you from rearing up. Give me that 2x4 over there. And I remember you hitting that horse between the ears and that 2x4. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that horse belonged to Owen Hatter.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted me to break that horse. Well, I did. But I finally made a pretty good horse out of him.
Well, I know I was scared to death that horse was going to fall over backwards with you. He just kept rearing up.
Well, I tell you what, Junior Hinds, grandpa lived not too far from where we live there now. He lived up north up there, and he had a Palomino mare that they couldn't ride because she'd rear up and fall back.
Oh.
Well, Junior had a horse that he was riding all the time, and anyway, uh, his grandpa uh, asked me one time if I'd ride that horse. Said I thought she'd be all right if somebody take her and ride her. And I, well, yeah, I'll try her. Anyway, saddled her up, got on her. Junior and I were walking, just walking down the road, on them, and all of a sudden she reared up and fell back, but I jumped out of her way. And when she fell back, I grabbed the reins and held her down, and they was the bulldog post short post leg there, and I clubbed her between the dadgummit eyes with that club. She got up, I got back on her, and she never reared up, not one more time, boy. She's pretty good riding now. But she didn't want more of that club.
Yeah. No, you was a pretty good cowboy at one time.
Well, I rode some pretty rough ones, I'll guarantee you. But,
I imagine we could probably sit here all day telling stories.
Yeah.
no. Well, you look back on those times and you wonder how you fried too. I know. Not only that, but during my time of bulldozing, I've turned 4 of them son of a guns over.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. Off
Well,
most of the time off my truck.
oh.
Driving about close to the loader.
Yeah.
Them son of a guns slide off on the side.
Mm.
And
Well, the old trucks you had to haul them on wasn't like the trucks
Well,
nowadays.
no, most of them was, one of them was an old aluminum bed,
Yeah.
and that even a wooden bed. The first one that I rode off the side of the truck, it was just a semi trailer,
Yeah.
and you drop the thing down with a winch, drove your truck out of the way and drove the dozer up on it, drive up there and hang your blade over the back end of it, so that winch would pick them up, load it, and then you drive back where you hauled. Well, it was, I done the job right there where the old Wolf Run School said.
Yeah.
Keith Ray owned that place in.
Yeah.
And I'd been down there clearing some land for him and got ready to move. Well, Shorty brought the truck up there and dropped it off, and he left. He knew I was going to have to load him that day, Willie. He got the rain. I thought, well, I'll drive that thing up over there. Well, I did. I drove up and sitting there, and I reached down to lock the brake, and I felt that thing slipping. And anyway, when it fell off the edge, I was trying to climb out the top of it, and when it hit the ground, well, I was still up on the track, but I got about 3 cracked ribs out of that thing, But the rest of the time, I'd be on the darn things when it hit the ground,
Well, you're lucky
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I've had some tight ones.
Well, we is all born poor and we're still pretty poor.
Well,
But we're a lot better
No.
than we was back then.
I guarantee that. Yes, sir. Well, you know,
We had a mama who loved us and kept us fed.
that's for sure.
And the
She
daddy
was
that
so
worked.
resourceful.
Hard-working daddy.
Yep.
She was so resourceful.
Yeah, she canned everything she could get her hands on. If it was grew wild or if she raised it. I
Yeah,
remember us picking blackberries there on Fossil's place. Went out and picking blackberries and
It was covered with chickens.
yeah. In fact, that's what Red Face waiting for now. Blackberry, she won't make some jelly, you know.
yeah.
Yep.
Is everybody else all right?
We lived on a Mildred's place there in Emmett, and we walked across the pasture over to the other road over there, and there was a blackberry patch
Yeah.
over there.
I remember that too.
And the next day I was covered from head to foot.